Los Piedras Railroad podcast, and Adam Pizante is with us. We've talked about Adam. You've seen his Donner River Subdivision, UP and N scale. It's awesome. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you having me.
All right, no problem. So tell us about yourself and how you got started in model railroading.
Well, I live in Northern California, born and raised. I reside in Sacramento at this time right now with my wife and my two kids that are teenagers. I've been having a love of railroading for, oh my gosh, since I was a young child, like a lot of us. Had a good family friend that had a large layout, and I got mesmerized with that, and then began my love affair, and it's never stopped. Also, my dad's business was in Tucson, California, which is towards the Bay Area, and his business backed up to the Southern Pacific Railroad CalP line. So when I used to go to work with him, I used to go out on my breaks and watch trains and just loved it. So that's kind of where it all began.
That's right. The SB had so many connections into Sacramento via Roseville.
One that went off west, which is the CalP, which ended up in the Bay Area, Oakland, San Jose area.
Okay.
And that's the one. That's the one that I was kind of near at the time when I was a child. Yeah.
Now, what happened to that line when Union Pacific took over? Are they still operating it?
They are, but traffic has dramatically decreased. Mostly what you get now is the Amtrak Capital Corridor trains.
Gotcha.
That run, there's about at least 10 each way per day, probably more. And then Union Pacific, you probably get 10 or so a day total if you're lucky.
All right. So What inspired you to model this layout, the Union Pacific Donner River Subdivision, which, ladies and gentlemen, we're showing pictures of, is just one fine N-scale layout?
Well, I appreciate that. Well, my main inspiration is I'm kind of settled in between Donner Pass and the Feather River Canyon. So I'm not too far from both. And that's kind of my inspiration. I liked both. I couldn't decide on one to kind of, model and loosely model. So I just incorporated them both into this layout and kind of took some features from both and kind of just meshed it together. And that's kind of what, Frankensteined it. That's kind of where it went.
You told me the layout's in a 3-car garage on one side of it. How big is it?
The layout is in a room that's 10 by 20. It's a round the room perimeter layout, single level. So basically, I got around 60 feet of running main line. It's single track, a couple passing sidings and stuff like that, but it's single level. So, it's a good size layout.
So Boomer Dioramas calls it a postage stamp scene, and my favorite, it shows great elevation changes, is the line through the tunnel portal with the service road going up. There's a bridge just before the portal with some talus rock. What a great picture. We'll put that up.
The layout, there's about one side of it that does have elevation, some grades, and then I've kind of incorporated some different terrain levels like in the foreground as well to give that extra dimension of it's going through the mountains. So try to capture that best I could.
Okay, because I'm just getting familiar with the layout. Do you have Truckee on the layout?
I do. I have a very small representation of Truckee on one end.
That's what I thought. One of the coolest things to do is look at the live Truckee Railroad Museum cam of the Roseville sub going through Truckee in the winter when there's snow on it. And I'm looking at a picture of it right now. And look at that. There's sunshine today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a wonderful area to railfan and enjoy trains for sure.
Let's talk about railfanning in your pictures, too, and then we'll get back to that because you're kind of a dual guy here. We've got the wonderful presentation of the Donner River Subdivision UP and N scale, but you're quite a rail fan, and you've got a nice collection of pics. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I had a good friend many years ago that got me into taking some prototype railfan pictures. He went along with him one day and caught the bug, got myself a camera and started taking pictures back when I was just out of high school, and then kind of just built on it from there. And now, I enjoy it when I can. When I have some free time, I'll go on a railfan trip or two. I just got back from a trip from Southern California with a good buddy, Patrick. That was a lot of fun. And then, I've been published in some of the publications like Railfan Railroad Magazine, Union Pacific Calendar, and then of course online I share some of my images there too. And it's nice because it feeds off of they feed off each other. The prototype railroading and the model railroading go hand in hand, and it's a great joint hobby to have.
So is it kind of a 50-50 thing with Railfan photos? Some you publish, some go into your collection, and others you use for research on the layout?
I do, yeah, especially when I have my prototype lines that I'm modeling nearby. I do go out and I need a detail shot here and there, or just inspiration. That absolutely, it's super convenient, and it's great to have that.
So the money shot that's been published in N-Scale Super Details of the High Line running along 395 with the UP units and the nicely paved road with lines and signs is just awesome. Super signature scene.
It is. Well, yeah, it is. And I wanted to capture something similar to that by seeing that just in real life. And I was brainstorming for a while on how to do it. And I ended up using sheet styrene and then just making some mild hills underneath on the subterranean, and then laying that sheet styrene, which is my road surface, and then just building scenery around it. And it came out great, and it was a unique feature on a model railroad you don't see very often. So
how did you do your lines and signs?
I use a product from Highways and Byways.
Love it.
Love it.
I've done the demo.
You're familiar, aren't you?
Yeah, I've done the demo for it. You'll find it on the site here. Their stuff in Texas is the best. You're right.
Yeah, I love that stuff because I was trying decals. You try to hand paint the lines, and nothing works as good as those. That's a great product. Easy to apply. It stays well even in heat and cold. Excellent product.
So one thing I do love is quality product references here on our podcast. And we've talked about Highways and Byways, awesome stuff. Scalesigns.com. Tom Garza in Lansing, Michigan. You will love it. I'll send you a link.
I don't think I have.
You need to get in touch with Tom Garza. It's scalesigns.com is the website, and I'm using his stuff, and I've done some product honking for him too, some carnival barking. Let's get into my favorite topic, scenery on the Union Pacific Donner River Subdivision.
I think the most important thing and the biggest thing that I start with is I have a foam-based scenery, and then I will go to a latex earth-colored latex paint.
Yep.
And then biggest thing is I want to use real dirt to start off. Yep. Sifted real dirt, and you know that well on your railroad.
Yep.
And then I'll use different products. I experimented with some static grass, and some of it I liked, some of it I didn't. And then I'll just go to the tried and true Woodland Scenics foam-based ground covers a lot for the underbrush and for short grass and those items, and then kind of go with some natural materials like some real twigs and stuff like that for deadfall and all that kind of material. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, there's three kind of main components that I've found to get more realistic looking scenery and not have that toy look, if that's what you're going for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is real dirt, muted colors, so nothing too bright. If you use a green, don't use a super bright green if you can avoid it. Use a more toned green, like an olive green, something, burnt grass color. And then, flat, real materials, like ballast, like I use Arizona Rock and Mineral ballast most of the time, stuff like that. And that's going to really, and then, that's going to really give you more of that realistic look versus, a lot of the brighter colors and such.
What are you doing for pine trees?
For pine trees, well, I have kind of a mixture. So I started off making my own pine trees. And
how'd you do it? Did you furnace filter or spun with a drill?
Yeah, I did the furnace filter. So I used the bamboo skewers with the furnace filter, and went got some pieces, glued those on, let those dry, did a really dark brown base coat.
Yes.
And then I used the Woodland Scenics blended green turf with hairspray adhesive for for all the pine needles and such. And then I would put the better, some would come out nice, some would come out so. Put the better ones in the foreground, put the less, appealing to the eye ones in the rear, and just kind of go with that. And that worked out great. And then I started adding in some JTT pine trees that I just kind of like the look of them. I know they're the kind of a cheaper one, but I would do a little doctoring up on them. And yeah, like in the loop area, because those are the trees that look like more accurate for that area, the layout. And I'm happy with those too, but you do need to do a little extra work. I put a little extra of that blended turf on there, mute tone down the trunk and stuff like that. And that works pretty good.
Do you hit everything with an airbrush with different colors?
No, I usually actually go with like some Tamiya earth, and I just kind of brush paint those areas. Yep. And then like I said, I'll do that foam, the Woodland Scenics blended turf, fine foam, or fine turf, for the main pine needles and branches and stuff like that.
All right, jumping on from scenery, let's talk about rolling stock, locomotives, and buildings weathering. What are some of your secret weapon weathering techniques?
So for N-scale, I notice less is more sometimes, at least in my personal opinion. For locomotives, I'll usually always give a flat coat of dull coat or a matte medium of some sort to kind of tone down the paint and give it, just that alone can improve your realism, and that's a good base coat, obviously, for some weathering. I'll go into, if I'm going to do a light coat of weathering, I'll use some weathering pigment such as like AIM or pan pastels for like the lower portion of the locomotive, and then maybe some soot for the roof. And then lately, I've been getting into my airbrush a little bit more. So I have an airbrush with a little, what do you call it? Like a portable little airbrush booth that I just bought, like a air station.
Yes.
And getting into that a little bit more. So I've done a couple locomotives with my airbrush, and finding I'm getting more comfortable with that and starting to enjoy that. So. And that's kind of what I've been doing for locomotives. Rolling stock, same idea. Rust on the roof sometimes, if it needs it. A lot of pan pastels, and dull coat is key there.
Yeah, talking to Rob Spangler, who modeled the Western Pacific, and we had him on. He's awesome. Great Basin. He was modeling a sister neighborhood to yours, and we were talking about weathering for rolling stock. On Western roads, really, you're right. It's the earth, it's the dust, a little bit of grime. You're not going to get that heavy Super Duty rust on these Western road themed, whether they're patch out jobs or transportation company jobs, or disappearing, Union Pacific. Be specific, ship Union Pacific boxcars anymore. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I try to give a variety because I'm trying to really focus on what the real railroad looks like and has. So they have, you look at a train, no matter what kind of train it is, you're going to have a variety of moderately weathered cars, light weathered cars, and a few heavy weathered cars, and as well as locomotives. And so that's what I try to represent. I don't go, all heavy or all nothing. I try to get that prototype mix. And you're right, there's a little bit more, light dust and fading versus heavy rust out this way.
How do you feel about graffiti?
Well, I do model it because I'm trying to go for realism, and it's there whether I like it or not.
I know. So, I'm doing it too. We're all doing it. Well, what did you find the best horse? I tried to do my own. That wasn't good. Then I actually made some decals, which were not bad. Then I just said, "Hey, you know what? I'm just buying the commercial ones."
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not really confident in doing my own, like by hand. And yeah, I haven't experimented with taking pictures and making my own decals, but pretty much I've gone with the commercial route as well. Just make sure that I keep it broken up so you don't see if I do have the same graffiti decal on multiple pieces of equipment, it's spread out and it's not going to be, back to back where it doesn't look realistic.
Yeah. Have you started doing patch jobs? I've just done a couple for the LPRR, the Las Piedras Railroad.
Yeah, I've actually, I do want to. I haven't yet, but I have it on the bucket list to try that.
Hey, which reminds me, because we're keeping this flowing pretty well, but I did want to sidecar you here on something. I noticed that you don't have a YouTube channel, and I don't see you on a lot of forums, and I want to beat you over the head about that. I want you to I want you to join Railwire. The Railwire forum is an N-scale forum I've been a member of, and I've learned a lot there with these guys since 2007. And they're awesome.
Oh, wow.
They're predominantly East Coast modelers, but we've got a few of us West Coasters in there. And I'll send you all the information on those guys. And let me ask you about that. You need to do a YouTube channel, son. Your work is too good not to see.
Well, I appreciate that. I plan to. I would like to, and you can look forward to that, and hopefully not the too distant future. With a full-time job and family and and stuff like that. Trying to find the time to make that content and do that. I don't want to set it up and then just disappear off of it. So I want to be able to start that and be able to be somewhat committed to it, because I notice a lot of modelers that I follow on YouTube, they get burnt out. You see them for a couple of years, and then you're like, where did they go? They disappeared into the atmosphere. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I definitely will we'll go get one going here, hopefully sooner than later.
What kind of motive power and rolling stock you got going?
Well, most of my motive power is, I model current. I try to keep things current. So I have mostly modern 6-axle power, a lot of GE Tier 4s, GEVOs, SD70 ACEs, a couple AC 4400s, and when more models and N-scale come out that I like, I will be adding to it. My favorite brand is Scale Trains. Second would be Cato, and I've got a lot of both. So, and then train wise, I'm a unit train fanatic. So a lot of intermodal, a lot of unit auto rack. Got some unit grains. I got a Union Pacific unit grain. I got a BNSF unit grain now, unit tank train. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
And the layout's big enough to accommodate the unit trains.
Yeah. I can run a decent sized train. I don't want it chasing its tail, but I do. That's just weird, but in my opinion. But it's fun at times. But I can run a pretty good sized train, and with the slower scale speeds that I run at, it takes a good amount of time for it to do a revolution. So that's kind of fun.
Is any of this prototypical, like a Roseville Manifest or an intermodal run?
Yeah, I try to get a couple of them representative of some of the trains that will run in the area. So yeah, there's a Roseville Manifest, like a Roseville North Platte Manifest. I'll run once in a while. Some of the intermodals from Oakland or Lathrop to Chicago, and stuff like that. And unit grains from Midwest to the Central Valley.
Okay, so you're modeling modern UP. The signal changeover happened within the last couple of years, right? The way they changed over to those new signals.
Yeah, HO, I know they have them. N-scale, I don't believe they have them yet. I know, I want to say NJ International,
I think you're right.
Has some. And then I've kind of created, kind of kit bashed some of my own on one section of the layout. The other section, I'm still using some searchlights and N-scale that I had found, because if you go like out into the Nevada desert, on both of the lines that I'm kind of modeling, you can still find some SP searchlights. So kind of incorporated some of those in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I have a old SP style signal bridge and truckee that I went ahead and put the hooded signal heads on, which sometimes happens in the prototype. So yeah, I got kind of a variety.
Yeah, you'll find some of that old SP stuff now that you brought that up. Like in Fresno in the yard, they still have one of the old telephone booths there. I was telling my son that. I go, you know what that is? I said, SP used to have these weird concrete phone booths, and they looked like concrete tubes that were telephone booths with phones in them. You'd be cool if you still had a couple of those popping around.
I know, yeah, those are very unique. Yeah, there's and up on Donner Pass, there's still a few of those, I think, lurking around. So yeah.
Okay, future plans. What are future plans for the Donner River Subdivision Union Pacific?
Well, as of right now, I have about, I want to say 70% of my scenery done. So I'm still working on scenery. I have a trip to Europe, a family trip to Europe planned coming up in a week. So I'll be gone for most of June. When I get back, I'll be refreshed and ready to start some scenery on more of the mountain areas. And then I also have a little bit of work I need to do in the other opposite corner of the layout, where near where the line crosses the door into the train room. So
Right.
I need to realign some track. Had a couple of issues. That's the only spot I've ever had any track issues. I want to kind of fix that up before I start scenery on that corner. So got a couple things, going on, and of course gonna do some more. I got plenty of locomotives I need to get weathered and cars and
Track.
and such. So
We forgot track. What do you use?
oh yeah, track. I run Pico Code 55, and then I will usually what I did when I started was I pre-weathered it with camouflage brown, like a lot of people use.
Yeah,
and then installed it in, and then I'll do a little bit of extra weathering before ballasting with some pastels or
and
some dry brush
and a few ties painted.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and I do have some concrete ties in some areas, which is nice because that's gives it a modern look. And Pico makes a great concrete tie, a flex track. So
Their track looks really good. I've never done it. So I use micro engineering code 55. I had on one layout I had 40 on the sidings, and I'm like, nobody cares.
yeah, and in scale, it's yeah.
So
I know
it's
what
just
you mean.
it's Atlas code 55 turnouts, and people say they hate them. I've never had any problems with them. The only problem that I've ever had, and you've seen it on this layout, is I had to convert from center spring overthrow switches on the throw bar back to those ugly Caboose Industries ground throws because I couldn't control the switches because I wanted, and always wanted manual switches because I just kind of figured with the money I would invest in tortoise machines that I could spend that on something else. So, and plus that it's a small layout. So I always wanted to have this manual switch thing, but you can do that with the Picos, right?
Yeah, you can. The Pico switches are great because they're spring loaded.
Yes.
So you can and then you can still put in a scenic switch stand or something if you would like. But yeah, they work great manually. Wonderful. I have some that are manual, and all my main line switches that go into my passing sidings and such, I do have Pico. I'm sorry. I meant tortoise switch machines.
Oh, there you go.
And yeah, those are all controlled with a through my wireless throttle, so I can throw those at a touch of a button. So that's great.
Which brings me to things that everybody keeps saying. Why did Caboose Industries not do a smaller, manual ground throw? Those ground throws are reliable and they're really good, but why are they so oversized? People have tried using N scale and HO. And it's almost good, but I thought, make a Z-scale one. This has been really awesome visiting with you. So we always ask this, any upcoming projects or anything we should keep an eye out for, Railfan-wise. We've talked about layout-wise. What else you got cooking?
Well, I have a lot of pictures from my trip to Southern California I just got back from, so
Where'd
I will be posting. I actually went to Beaumont Hill, went to Cajon Pass, and then briefly went through on the way home over to Tehachapi. So kind of got the trifecta.
All right. Advice and inspiration for folks that are checking out our podcast. They're going, what in the hell are these boys talking about? Everybody seems to say start simple and have some fun with this.
Yeah, and that's great advice. Don't bite off more than you can chew, so you get overwhelmed. Like you were saying, your railroad is phenomenal, and it's not too big, and it's something that it's manageable, it's enjoyable, it's not overwhelming. Number one, number two, figure out what you like. Look at the real thing. Do you like a short line? Do you like long main line trains? Do you like passenger trains? Find out what you like so that you'll stick with it, and then just watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of how-to videos and books, and just dive in and get going, and you'll have a great time.
So Adam Pizante and his Donner River Subdivision in N-Scale, Union Pacific. It's been a blast having you on this podcast, sir.
You might end up being one of the biggest railroad podcasts in the world. Who knows? So.
And before we go, I want to thank you for your service as a first responder. Are you in Sacramento or the county?
I'm in a adjoining county in Yolo County, and I work for a private ambulance company. We're the EMS provider for that whole county, so we run all the 911 calls, all the transports for Yolo County, which is right next door to Sacramento County, and I really appreciate that, and thank you so much.